not to be as pretty as her sister, though she had a wide, generous mouth and a lovely smile. Annabel thought her sister was like a young colt, all long legs and tossing hair. "Your turn will come, Poppet," Annabel said. "Another couple of years, that's all. I shall be married off by then, and hopefully you'll be able to have more clothes than I have. If my husband is rich, I'll spend some of it on you, and that's a promise. I'm not sure I care much about clothes." "You will," Annabel said. She dropped a kiss on her sister's head in passing. "When I marry a rich man, I'll take you shopping and buy you lots of lovely things." "Just as long as you marry someone you care about," Hetty said, looking at her with anxious eyes. "Ben was telling me he intends to marry for money. He says he doesn't care if she looks like a horse, as long as she comes with a fat settlement." "Ben has a large house in danger of falling down around him," Annabel said. "The poor darling has to marry a fortune or sell the estate. He should have sold all Father's investments after he died, but he was too young to understand what was going on, and Father's lawyers told him it would be best to leave the money where it was until he was ready to deal with it himself. It had been bad advice, as it turned out, though well-intentioned. Their father had invested most of his money in America, and when the Wall Street crash came in October 1929, it had taken most of what they had. Benedict Tarleton was still reeling from the shock of being told he had virtually nothing, other than the estate itself, and was desperately trying to save himself from bankruptcy. "That would be a bit of a shame," Hetty admitted. She loved the big, shabby, rather ugly old house for all its faults and inconveniences, and knew that she would hate to see it sold, and yet she wanted her brother to be happy. "But Ben should find some other way to make his fortune." "Father lost most of our money trying to make his fortune. Everything seemed to be booming when he bought all those shares. It would have been much safer in land, but he wanted a better return for us all," Annabel said, a sad expression in her deep blue eyes. It was the constant worry about money that had brought on the illness, which had led, a year or so earlier, to her father's sudden death at the age of 53. "Ben will make up his own mind what he's going to do, but Mother wants him to marry Helen Winters because of the money her grandfather left her, and he probably will when it comes to it." "I still think he should wait until he falls in love. He might fall for a rich girl as easily as a poor one." "Perhaps he will." Annabel picked up her shawl. "I haven't got time for this, Hetty. Tom will be getting impatient." Hetty watched as she left the room, and then went over to the dressing table to borrow a spray of perfume from the pretty cut glass bottle. The perfume was French and expensive, and had been a present from Major Brocklehurst on Annabel's 20th birthday in June. He had given Hetty something similar for her own birthday in the spring. She liked Tom and Selina. They were distant cousins, and had been good to the family since Sir William's death. It was to Tom that Ben had turned for advice, after the shock of the crash, though he had refused to accept a loan, mainly because he knew that Tom would never allow him to repay it. And Selina was the reason Annabel had been invited to so many parties and dances. She was a widow, quite well off, and had a large circle of friends she entertained both in London and at her brother's country house. "I've no one else but you," she told Hetty's mother once when Hetty was in the room. "Your children and my brother are my family. If I can be of help to the girls, it will be a pleasure." "You're so kind, Selina." Lady Tarleton had taken full advantage of the offer. "If you could just introduce Annabel to some of your friends, I'm sure something can be arranged for her, even though she is a difficult girl to please." Hetty knew their mother wanted Annabel to make a good marriage. In her own opinion, she thought Belle was beautiful, intelligent, and good-natured, so it ought to be easy to find her a rich husband. She suspected that Tom Brocklehurst was a little in love with her himself, though at past 40 he was perhaps too old and set in his ways to be considered a good catch. Yet Hetty thought if it were her, she would rather marry him than most of the young men who came courting her sister. Having helped herself to Annabel's perfume, she began to tidy away the clothes her sister had discarded, holding the ones she liked up against her figure. She didn't know why Belle was in such a fuss over the dance. It was surely no different from any of the others. Annabel's heart missed a beat as she caught